You are now listening to the Sound of Sanity. This sound will continue for the duration of the program. I've got an update on Soundboard Gate 2023. The gentleman... Oh, man, does that... Oh, that's like 3 minutes long. Okay, goodbye. That is called...
Super loud.
Super loud. I'm sorry. Jake, and your headphones aren't even that high.
No, but that sound effect is crazy loud.
Okay, well, I just turned the sound effects down. In any case, the gentleman that gave $1.52 or whatever it was we said we needed in order to make me burn my soundboard, he actually gave 1 penny less than what we needed as a humorous joke. And then in a memo to our finance department said in all caps, please don't make Nathan burn his soundboard. So I just wanted to update you guys.
Interesting.
Let you know that the soundboard is universally beloved. Even people that don't know this podcast know and love the soundboard, and no one wants me to burn it. It is an amazing, amazing part of human history.
I like that you added the Wilhelm scream to it.
Wilhelm scream is something that I wanted on there, even though I think it's a little overused as a trope and kind of pulls me out of movies at this point. I think it's time to retire the Wilhelm scream for about 50 years, and then some clever person from our grandkids' generation can be like, haha, remember this scream from old boring grandpa movies like Star Wars? And they can put it in. Have you guys ever thought about the fact that in the novel and the film Ready Player One, it is set in
No, I haven't.
Yeah, well, true. It's set in 2050 or so, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, which means that the stuff from the 80s that they like would be the equivalent of stuff from 70 years ago. So it'd be like if we
the
had
50s.
It'd be like
it'd be Don Draper and Mad Men.
No. It would be like if, because the Don Draper and Mad Men is like a modern thing that's cool. Sort of. Okay, fine. You make a fair point. But I still think no one's going to build a computer simulation where we're all pretending like we're in the 1950s. And if we did, even the most conservative Christians would think that was super lame.
But that's not the whole thing. That's just like the creator's shtick. But you can go anywhere and be a part of any. You can do dinosaurs and
that's true.
Any number of other things. It's just like the creator's shtick was 80s, and so
everybody has to. And
if you're going to win the prize, you have to know the creator's shtick. And
but Wade Watts is like, I've memorized the dialogue to all the... Or Wade Watts, I think that's his name. I've memorized the dialogue to all these movies. This is so cool. And it would be like if I was like...
I think Wade Watts is right. What's Deadpool's name? It's like Wade Wilson?
It is Wade Wilson, yeah.
Wade Wilson is Deadpool?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't care for Deadpool.
Let me see if I lied.
He understands the fact that he's in a fictional property, and he makes you aware of that and says various vulgarities, and people find it very amusing. I myself do not.
I only had the thought because I was scrolling somewhere and Wade Wilson or Wade Watts came up, and I got confused as to which was Ready Player One and which was... that's what my brain clicked into, because I remember that line of, it's like a comic book hero name. Mm-hmm. And so I thought we were talking Ready Player One, but it was
Wade Watts
talking about Deadpool. Which was which?
Wade Watts is Ready Player One. Wade Wilson is Deadpool.
Man. Yeah. And yes, folks, when you think about the amount of scripture that I still have to memorize, the fact that there's cells in there that can still pull Wade Watts at this late hour in my life as the time that I am given to spend on this earth slowly draws to a close. Pretty sad.
That is why you fail.
But I'll tell you why I don't fail. It's because I'm the host of Sound of Sanity, a little podcast coming to you now, bringing you, I don't know how much, a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour of sanity, a break from all the insanity of your crazy life. And I am Nathan Albertson, the humble and obedient host of that podcast. We've got the preacher who's a teacher of sanity right there. He's wearing a plaid, like kind of brown and blue and peach. No, not peach. What?
Wow,
Cream.
this shirt is really sounding horrible as you describe it.
It's a brown and blue and
All
peach
right.
and cream
Great.
plaid shirt.
It's better than it sounds.
It is better than it sounds. It's a nice combo.
Yeah.
It's like if somebody dropped an Easter egg into mud and then stomped all over it, and the colors from the Easter egg ran.
That's good.
And
That's good. Very good.
The person was like, "Die, Easter egg." And then they took all that stuff and splattered it all over a shirt.
Nice.
And then Ben was like, "Yes, I'll pay $50 for this." I'm assuming you paid $50 for that shirt.
I'm a doofus.
You got the deal for it.
Yeah.
A shirt that great. No, he's Benjamin Sulzer.
Hello.
Ben, I'm going to need you to describe what the person to your right is wearing, and then introduce the
He is
person who
wearing
occupies those clothes.
A very red shirt. The person to my right is you. You're wearing a deep red shirt. It's pretty classy looking, solid color.
I thought Jake would be hoisted on the petard, but instead I was hoisted on my own petard. Oh, the irony. Now, Jake, Jake, why don't you describe what Ben's wearing?
I wish I could say better things about that shirt, but instead I'll say that Ben's wearing a shirt.
Right. Instead, you're going to lie.
Wow.
Because-
No, he is wearing a shirt. I told
No,
you
it's true.
lies.
I guess that's true. But you're lying by omission because you're not saying how wonderful Ben's shirt is.
No, okay.
To
You
say,
insist.
I saw the Mona Lisa, it was a painting, without saying how great it is, what a transcendent moment of your life is to lie.
Okay,
Like, Mona Lisa, pretty good. You say, Ben's shirt, pretty good.
if you insist.
The same thing. The thing is, Ben's shirt changes. Like, you never know whether it's looking at you or no matter where you go, it kind of follows you.
Is it smiling or is it not?
Is it smiling or it's got a...
What's the expression is basically a reflection of how you feel.
The expression is a reflection of how you feel.
That's right.
Well, folks, it's another January.
I chose the wrong shirt. That's
No,
what
Ben,
I'm learning.
You chose wisely.
I mean, that's something to add to your soundboard.
That is, I need both of them. I need both of them.
You chose poorly and you chose wisely.
You choose wisely. This is January in 1984. We, of course, live in a dystopian.
I don't think you ever introduced Jake.
Oh, did I not?
No.
Okay, can you
Doesn't matter.
describe?
I don't need any introduction.
He does. You do.
All right, he's a man who
I
needs.
do.
He's a man who needs no introduction,
I
and
feel
he
like
will.
you do.
Apparently needs some introduction.
He's the man who desperately needs an introduction. It's
That's me.
Jake Menzel. He's wearing a jacket. It's kind of a
Terrain jacket.
off navy kind of.
It's pretty cool.
What would we say this color is?
I would call it navy.
Yeah, but it's not like extreme navy. Like sometimes you look at navy and you're like, am I looking at black? No, I'm looking at navy. But you'll never be fooled into thinking you're looking at black with this thing.
It's because it has some lighter navy highlights.
It's got some lighter navy highlights. Just like my favorite film, McHale's Navy. It's got some lighter navy highlights in it. The highlights of the film.
That is why you fail.
You're a loser. Loser. You're a loser. Loser. You're a loser. Loser. You're a loser. Loser. You're a
January 1984. Gentlemen, we live in a dystopian hellscape known as 1984, or so we have dubbed it. Things happen in the culture. Our fans and friends put them into Patreon, or no, they go to Patreon. They sign up at patreon.com/Sound of Sanity. This gives them access to our Discord channel. Within this channel, there are various sub-channels. One of them is January in 1984, and they have filled this up with stories from the news and from culture that they would like us to talk about. And we are going to go through those stories now. What are we starting with, Jake?
Just a couple of tweets not long after Elon's takeover of leading up to the Twitter file. So I think we can take these all at once. So the first one is just Elon acknowledging that there were politicians who were shadow banned by Twitter going into the recent elections. Elon acknowledging that any number of former FBI and CIA agents were hired by Twitter to work at Twitter since Donald Trump was elected. And so there are over a dozen, it was revealed over a dozen ex-FBI, CIA agents, all placed in senior management roles at Twitter once Donald Trump came to power. And then you have sort of the start of the Twitter file as things related to the removal of Donald Trump or whatever were dropped in. And then you have two on top of that, sort of like the reactions, the ways that various liberal media outlets were downplaying the Twitter files and saying, well, sure, they provide ammo for conservatives, but they lack crucial context. And then a bunch of things basically trying to pretend like it doesn't matter that Donald Trump was censored going into the 2020 election. It doesn't matter that he was kicked off Twitter. It doesn't matter that a bunch of former FBI and CIA agents are in senior management at Twitter. It doesn't matter that the owner of Twitter acknowledges that conservative politicians were shadow banned and censored and muted going into election seasons. It doesn't matter that all this other stuff happened. And by now, we've had a lot of Twitter files that have sort of opened this stuff up and made it public. And we kind of see what's going to come of it. But it sounds like not a whole lot, ultimately. But who knows?
You mean in terms of like some sort of punishment of the guilty, or?
Yeah, how's this going to come back to, how's this going to change anything in terms of the political landscape, in terms of the media landscape? How's this changing the conversation? How's this going to impact our politics moving forward?
I will say we are all freshly re-engaged on Twitter, and I don't think that's a coincidence. At Nathan Alberson, at Jacob Menzel, at Chip McGregory.
That's true.
That's not a joke, folks. At Chip McGregory exists. Here, I'll just do the plug real quick. At Desmond Dark.
Dark Desmond Dark.
Dark Desmond Dark. But
Oh, I didn't catch that one yet. Yeah,
just to really confuse things.
He
and
hasn't
make it
really done anything yet. So.
just to really confuse things and make it so I can never actually give an easy way for you to go there. The end of the Desmond and the beginning of the Dark share 1D.
Hey.
Oh no.
So
Yep.
is that Desmond Dark, think of it that way.
Maybe I'll redo his account. I don't know.
You mean maybe Desmond will redo his account?
That's what I mean.
We can reach out to him.
We will.
Well, now I follow Dark Desmond Dark.
Dark Desmond Dark, yeah. Hopefully the right one. And Chip McGregory is having a lot of fun tweeting kind of old man memes and stuff like that. So in any case, we are all freshly like, hey, this Twitter thing seems like something we actually might want to use.
Yeah, it took me. I mean, if you look at my Twitter feed, I posted something on it for the first time since April today. And the thing I posted in April was me commenting that I may be motivated to start tweeting again. And that was because that was when Elon's takeover was first sort of initiated.
Right.
Yeah, it's taken a while, but I've been since then circling around it. And then when we got together last week, we discovered we'd all been sort of circling around it. So we decided to sort of take the plunge together, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. If you're somebody on Twitter and you want to like, retweet, share, help us build our platform, then that would be nice. But I don't know. I mean, I think that does have something to do with Twitter feeling like a place where you might actually be able to speak your mind without just being throttled or shadow banned or just outright censored, removed from the platform. I mean, we saw people in and out of our circles getting knocked off all the time because of pretty basic stuff. People were using the groomer hashtag and they would just be abolished from Twitter, banished from Twitter. So yeah, it does seem like a place where you might be able to get something done. You might be able to reach your audience, whoever that is. What else do you guys think about this whole Twitter files kerfuffle?
It's amazing. It's damning. It's really cool that Elon's just sort of airing all the documentation and laundry. And it kind of stinks that outside of conservative circles, it doesn't feel like it's moving the needle in terms of waking people up to how things have been.
Well, I just don't think it's been covered. I mean, I don't want to be one of those conservatives,
that's really it.
It just hasn't been on the media, the mainstream media, like at all. Not even to knock it. It's just, I mean, okay, so we have is it an Axios article? I guess we have an Axios.
It's a Vox one.
Oh, yeah, we have a Vox article. So there are
and an Axios one.
There are people that are responding to it on the liberal side of things, but in terms of getting coverage on CNN or like anything that your dad watches on TV.
Yeah, well, Axios is going to say, well, it's a Rorschach test. It says what you want it to see, what you're predisposed to see. And Vox is going to say, well, it's ammunition for conservatives, but it lacks context, right? Which is like how it's just like such a standard line.
Right.
Well, you don't know.
And it'll satisfy, in that sense, Axios is right. Like, if you just say it lacks crucial context, then that gives you all you need to not pay attention to any of it. I guess one thing that may be true and may be part of the truth of the Rorschach test is, as Axios puts it, is that I think for most of our listeners, for me, all the Twitter files actually do is say, yeah, that thing that you kind of knew was happening and that you kind of suspected was happening and that everybody was saying was a conspiracy theory. Yep, just like everything else, that was true. And so at the very least, what it does is sort of affirm you in your don't trust the mainstream narratives. They're all being shaped and cultivated by higher powers with agendas. There's nothing true and objective out there. And so be discerning and be careful, which is where from the point of Donald Trump forward, what has been progressively happening across the board, where people just are increasingly like, yeah, okay, fake news. Fake news is real. It's a real thing. Yep. We don't just accept the narrative as delivered by the White House, the narrative as delivered by a mainstream news network, a narrative that's delivered by consensus on a platform.
Right.
If Facebook says fact checkers say, or Instagram says crucial context is needed, or Twitter says that, even with Elon behind it, everybody's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
White noise, like, we don't trust you. In fact, you saying something like that makes me think, okay, well, maybe this is something worth paying attention to, because now I found the counter narrative.
Right.
And the counter narrative is actually worth looking at and addressing. It's like the old school wisdom was, if you really want to give somebody power, censor them or try to censor them, right? And so you can effectively censor people and make them silenced so that nobody can hear them, or the internet makes it really hard to do that. And with Elon in control of Twitter is a place that feels like it's harder to do that again, which is part of what's attractive about it.
Absolutely.
So it's like, yeah, if I can find the counterpoints, if I can find the counter narratives, if I can see both sides of a story here, well, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be in an echo. And certainly the minute you try to censor something, my curiosity's piqued. So
Yeah, I mean, I think where a lot of us are at is I don't trust any one source, because the conservatives maybe aren't as bad as the liberals, but you go to Daily Wire and you listen to the Ben Shapiro show, which I have, and it's like, a stopped clock is right twice a day. Once a year, Joe Biden does something right. And when he does, Ben Shapiro mocks it exactly the same way that he mocks everything else, or he just ignores it and it doesn't become part of the story.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that's so frustrating about all this stuff, too, is like, okay, DeMar, what's his face? The Buffalo Bills player who collapsed on primetime television, Monday Night Football. DeMar Hamlin, I think is his name, but DeMar Hamlin. Here's the thing about that. It is really hard and sticky to figure out the degree to which there has been an increase in heart attacks and heart-related diseases, in myocarditis, in ventricular tachycardia, medical phrases that none of us knew 2 years ago, that we all think we're experts about now. But on the one hand, it's like, well, every incident of a heart-related thing that happens on a ball field is now fodder for the vaccines are killing us all, are killing everybody. Watch, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen again. And some of that, it's like, well, how do you separate that from the fact that, well, I just went out and bought a Toyota, and now I see more Toyotas on the road.
Yeah.
I remember from my childhood, people falling dead on the D. Brown fell dead on the basketball court in the NBA. Like, that sort of thing happens. My kids all wear chest protectors in baseball because kids drop dead if they take a ground ball to the right part of their chest at the exact right time with the right level of force. And so DeMar Hamlin, we see him take a shot to the chest on national television and then go down, and there's an actual thing that happens. It's like, well, we just don't know. And everybody's so eager to say, see the vax, see? Or no, it wasn't the vax. And it's just like, well, guys, why are we competing over every single incident here to support our narrative? And I guess the reason I bring that up is just like, you just really can't trust anybody on either side to be objective.
Yes.
And what you have to do is you have to be a committed truth seeker. And a committed truth seeker may may be able to come back and say, well, we are seeing elevated levels of people, quote unquote, dying suddenly, or heart attacks, myocarditis, ventricular tachycardia, and any number of other nonsense sounding words that we all think we understand now. But also we got to be able to step back if we're going to be objective and say, well, not everything that seems to fit my narrative is something that I can pull into my narrative.
Right.
It's not wise. It's not healthy. And when I do that, it proves that I don't care about the truth, actually. I just care about my narrative, my story.
Right. Well, and there's the
My
additional
politics.
there's the additional complication that there's another kind of bad thing that people do, which is they adopt the wrong version of what you're talking about, where their whole narrative, their whole self-narrative is, I'm a truth seeker. I don't accept anything.
And I stand outside of everything.
I stand outside of everything.
And above everyone and
everything.
everything.
That's just as useless. G.K. Chesterton said, an open mind is like an open mouth. Eventually it has to close on something. So you should actually be finding the truth and landing and taking some stands on things and saying, okay, the evidence takes me here. And maybe I'm not, maybe I'm only 80% sure, but I'm okay being 80% sure because I don't have to have a hot take for social media and I don't have to have a hot take for the barber shop or wherever people go to have hot takes. It's okay to be a little unsure where something fits for a while and to say, these are the things that we do know. These are the things that we don't know. The other thing that I do think makes the whole Twitter thing complicated as people, the reason that Axios and people like that and Vox are able to push back is because the conservative narrative becomes, it was an evil cabal that completely and totally united to censor and to stamp us out. And then they say, well, actually look at the evidence and it doesn't quite look like that. It looks like they're a bunch of confused people trying to make decisions in real time. And I think that's actually a fair critique. I think it's not that they weren't censorious jerks. It's not that there weren't liberals. I guess what I'm trying to say is this. There's a big difference between a united evil cabal and there was no king in Israel and every man did what was right in his own eyes. And I think what you actually have with Twitter is there was no king in Israel and every man did what was right in his own eyes. It's a big bureaucracy. I'm sure there were lots of people that were well motivated. I'm sure there were lots of people that were malicious actors. I know it was more full of spooks than a Tim Burton movie, The Master of the Macabre. And so, yeah, there's all kinds of things going on. You can't just say they all got together and decided we are going to ban Donald Trump. I have some sympathy for the things where you're watching them try and figure it out. So I don't know, maybe you guys disagree with that.
I don't disagree. I think that you got the bigger picture of our culture, obviously, is a downgrade from Christian morality.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you have various groups of people trying to pull strings and move things their direction, or you have people's moral intuitions coming into play in a bureaucracy, in today's day and age, it's going to err on the side of downgrade.
The net effect becomes the same net effect you'd have if there was an evil cabal. I'm just saying bureaucracy and the general kind of devolution of bureaucracy is what actually gets us there. It's like the difference between a Jason Bourne movie where it's like you go all the way to the top and there's the evil man running the CIA kind of stuff versus like a Jean Le Carre novel where it's just like, who knows who's running anything? All we know is that everybody does what's right in their own eyes. So if one guy in a little sector over here in a place thinks what the CIA should be doing is having sex with teenage girls so that they could do mind control experiments, then he can get the money for that. And he can find the people that think that's a good idea. And it all kind of tends towards malice, and malicious actors find a place in it because there's no actual system. There's no benevolent authority that's just saying, no, this is how it's going to be. But I think it's a fallacy to say that most of these things, including the FBI, the CIA, and Twitter, are run with actual stated malicious purpose. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that's important to me to say. I guess it's a
de-escalation of conservative narratives, right?
Well, it's important to at least put on the table. I don't know that we can know one way or another, but to have it on the table is...
I think we can't know. I mean, sure, there could be the string master, the Godfather, the guy, and there's arguments you could make. But I think it's important to say in my mind at least, it's more likely. The way that these institutions usually go is not that Emperor Palpatine takes over. Usually it's just like you got a Grand Moff Tarkin here and a guy over here, and it just kind of...
You have leaders of different cabals.
Yeah, you have mini cabals. I'm not saying there aren't really evil people doing really evil things with intentional malice. I believe that there are. With teams, with underlings, and with organizational skills. And I'm not saying our country isn't going towards Emperor Palpatine just taking over. I mean, you could argue Emperor Palpatine's in charge right now. I'm just saying things tend to be more diffuse than a lot of people want to see them, and I think that that's worth noting. Next story, polygamy. We're talking polygamy, a growing trend of self-marrying women. At least 70 women have married themselves since 2011 in places like Japan and Italy.
It's a good song.
Thank you. It's actually based on a true story. So somebody posted an article on, I guess it's pronounced polygamy, the practice of self-marriage, which among, if you can imagine, affluent women in first world countries has become a thing.
Yep.
Yep.
Why marrying yourself is the start of a great love story. Promoted by the BBC.
It's really not. It's really not. I mean, I would never marry myself because I hate that guy. Like, he abuses me. He belittles me. Half the time, I don't even think he likes me. Like, why would I want to be married to myself? It's just like such a false... I don't know. I keep thinking of the Woody Allen joke, don't knock masturbation and sex with someone I love, which is possibly his most brilliant and self-revealing line. Yeah. Don't marry yourself. What else do you guys want to say about polygamy?
I don't know. It kind of says all it needs to say about itself.
Yeah.
It's just pure foolishness. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Women need to love themselves. That's something that Chris points out from the video. Women need to love themselves is the way that people are talking about it.
I mean, I hated making my friends show up for my wedding to my wife. Like that, I'm like, yeah, you don't have to spend all this time and money on me. I suck. So the idea that these, which isn't what I should have been, but I'm just saying that's where I'm coming from. And meanwhile, you have these narcissists that are going to throw a ceremony and spend a lot of money and make other people like fly to their destination self-marriage wedding and buy them presents and waste all their time being part of a ceremony and stuff like that. It's just like the level of narcissist.
It's a commitment to autonomy, to worshiping yourself.
Yes.
I mean, to loving yourself first above all others, including God.
But it's not just a commitment to worshiping yourself. It's like everybody else in my circle better worship me too. And that...
They better honor my worship of myself.
That is just
Recognize it, solemnize it, support it.
Yeah, it reminds me very much of, I think it was last month in 1984. The last one we did, we talked about suicide and that really like beautifully photographed ad of the woman getting ready to kill herself.
Yeah, Canada.
It feels like the exact same thing to me. Like, I'm my own God. Come and worship me, or help me worship myself, whether I choose life or death for myself. Come and be part of it.
Right.
This is all about me, and it's only about me. And it's about you supporting me, and it's about me loving myself or hating myself in any way I choose.
It just requires, on that level, it just requires such a lack of basic self-knowledge. It's like, okay, I believe in Zeus. I think Zeus is great. I think Zeus is going to give me a good harvest. Like, there's that kind of belief. But it's like, you've never seen Zeus, so you can believe in those kinds of things. You just saw a statue of Zeus, so and people told you Zeus was great, so I guess you believe in Zeus. But you hang out with yourself all the time. Do you really think that you treat yourself so well? Do you really think that you are capable of giving yourself what you need? That just requires such a level of self-deception. Seth, the guy that posted this in our Discord, our good friend Seth, I'll call him Seth number 1. As opposed to Seth number 2, the guy that tried to make me burn my soundboard like a true malicious actor in the stunted bureaucracy of Warhorn Media. Seth number 1 says, my second response to this video is there a true need that is being met wrongly? Is there something true that we need to provide to the ladies in our lives so that they will not desire to pursue the counterfeit? What do you guys answer to him?
Masculinity.
Masculinity. Protection. I mean, all of the women, a woman that would do this is a woman who is hurt, a woman who is self-protective, a woman who wants to not be hurt again. And
to connect it to suicide, this sex and death, right?
Yeah.
And so suicide is the murdering of not just yourself, but the world and everything in it, right? That's a great Chesterton point that is absolutely true. And the marrying of yourself is the
murdering of every husband in the world.
It's the divorcing of every man in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And so the counterpoint is real, healthy, strong, biblical masculinity.
Right.
That can step in and deal with this sort of thing.
All right. Next, ecto-life.
The Ecto-Life Artificial Womb Facility.
Which isn't a real thing, in case anybody saw this video on social media and thought, oh, we've arrived at them actually doing this.
Just a concept.
It's just a concept by an artist, not even by a scientist. But yeah, it certainly made the rounds on conservative social media because basically we should describe what it is for people who haven't seen it.
It's an artificial womb facility.
It's a commercial for it that was made by a filmmaker.
Right. So it's like a proof of concept where you have like these little, it's like the scene in the wonderful Zack Snyder Man of Steel Superman movie where Russell Crowe goes to rescue his baby before Krypton is destroyed. And apparently in this alien civilization, they have these mechanical eggs where the babies are warm and safe, and so he goes and he finds Kal-El and rescues him. It looks like that kind of thing. It's like just this vast field of mechanical little pods where your baby goes in and he's warm and safe, and you can come and visit him and watch him grow, him or her, whatever he decides, and you can see how he's coming along, and he doesn't take a toll on mom's body, and mom is all healthy and ready to go when the baby finally 9 months later completes his or her or them or theirs gestation process. You can take them out and you can take them home, and you're both healthy and well rested and ready to take care of this little one
without having, quote, been gradually weighed down and latched onto by a parasitic organism that tends to leave rather a path of destruction upon its exit, even in the best case scenario, end quote. Quote, given the option, I'm sure some mums would choose to push a button and watch a little pod open up, end quote.
That's
yeah.
right.
Well, the way that God cursed
mothers can wear a haptic feedback vest so they can feel the baby's movements.
That's funny.
And have access to a 360-degree camera so you can see what the baby sees.
Kind of like a Ready Player One version of pregnancy or something.
In life, yeah.
Yep. Well, the way God cursed my sex is the way I have to work, and so what I'd like to imagine is I get to push a button,
Toil, you should say,
and then money shows up, and there's no thorns or thistles, and my podcasts don't get the file doesn't get corrupted, and we don't have to stop and retake things because someone said the wrong thing. I don't want to work. I just want to push a button and be given everything I need. I think that'd be pretty cool. I don't know. Somebody here, I'll be a devil for a second. Let me find the alarm. Oh no, it's the devil's advocacy alarm. What's this? Someone's going to have to play the devil's advocate and argue the opposite of what we're arguing. Okay, Nathan, you just made the connection to Genesis and to God's curse after the fall. And
are you saying that gloves?
Yeah. Are you saying that we shouldn't use gloves to work? Are you saying that women can't have epidurals or go to hospitals, that everything has to be as painful as possible? Isn't this just kind of a cool sci-fi way to accomplish the task? Maybe this is even as a good post-millennial. We're finally getting to the place where we've just like aspirin kind of took care of headaches. And that's not something that God resents. We're finally taking care of a lot of the thorns and thistles that come with pregnancy.
Nope. This is redesigning the world that God made. This is fundamentally changing things. God made sex to produce fruit, and
He made wombs in women to
wombs in women, and there are all kinds of things that are biological processes, natural processes, hormonal things that happen that are super important. They're all connected to God's design for mothers and children, for children to grow up healthy inside their moms, and for moms to attach emotionally to the kids and to nurture them and to pretend even like this is somehow to treat the children like a parasitic organism as a thing. So this is just godless, unnatural, and counter to God's design. Anything that flies in the face of God's design is something we should oppose. And so this is not the same thing as
An epidural.
Anything used to mitigate the effects of the fall. This is an attack on the pre-fall design. And so this is just evil.
Yes. I mean, God so connects life-giving to a woman's calling that it literally says she shall be saved through childbearing, which obviously no one in this podcast thinks that is literal in the sense that she goes to heaven because she had a child. But her sanctification is connected deeply to her role as a life giver.
Just like for a man, our sanctification is connected deeply to our role as providers and protectors and our fulfillment of the creation mandate and the discipline of dealing with thorns and thistles.
Right.
It's just connected because this is God's fundamental discipline of us, at the fall. So discipline is meant to make you grow, to lead you to repentance, to lead you to Jesus. And so every time we head up against difficult things in work, it should remind us of sin. It should remind us of the brokenness of the world. It should drive us to God. And the same thing's true of women when it comes to children. God's discipline is designed to strike at the core of how he designed us.
Right.
So with men, it's work, and with women, it's children. And that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And it's something that we lean into so that we grow, not something that we try to avoid entirely because it's owed to us to not have to deal with the curse of our own sin. Well, it eventually catches up to us. So,
yes.
And there's really not much we can do about it. So it's better to lean in.
Yeah. We can't just have robots be fruitful and multiply and subdue the earth for us.
Yep.
Although robots are awesome, which we'll talk about next episode when I attempt to pick up the threads of a conversation from last episode, and I will give my best defense of Chat GPD. So
cool.
There is your teaser.
Have you been talking with Chat GPD?
Yes.
Nathan?
When I guess I should say Chat GPT will give its best defense. As I just said, defend yourself against Jake and Ben. And it was like, the famous podcasters? And I was like, yes. And then it proceeded to tell me. So anyway, folks, we'll be back with part 2 of January in 1984, 2023 next week. You can go to patreon.com/Sound of Sanity to join the conversation, be part of the Discord. We're having fun over on Discord, having some good conversations. Enjoy the community over there. Truly do, not just blowing smoke. So I'd love for you to be part of that. Sign up today. You can sign up for as little as a cup of coffee a month. Patreon.com/Sound of Sanity. Until next time.
Stay sane.